Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. We're back here in the month of June in the height of summer. We're happy to be back after our break last week. And actually for us, the three of us, it's been a bit of a break because we actually pre-recorded our episode before that almost a week in advance. So it's been a while. It's good to be back. I'm Illeagle 86, one of your stalwart hosts, and my other two stalwart hosts and excellent friends are Nerdbomber and Techtic. Say hello, guys.
Hello, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
So yeah, good to be back. Wouldn't you agree? Good to be here.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's been nice because the weather's been kind of nice. So it was nice to have a little bit of a reprieve, but I definitely miss doing this every week.
Yeah, it's been. I think summer episodes are the ones that I think about personally. Not that the other seasons aren't also great, but and granted, in summer we usually do our E3 episode, and of course this year we won't get to do that. But there's summer. There's something about summertime. Granted, we're sitting inside, we're not enjoying the nice weather, but personally, by me right now it's raining, so I'm pleased to be here more than ever. We have a great slate tonight. We're going to be talking about what I'm learning is one of Nerdbomber's favorite things. Neopets has introduced a mobile app, so that's on the docket. We're going to be talking about a lot of the big Bungie announcements that came out today. And of course, we're going to be talking about this new trailer for Bill and Ted's, well, it's not Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, that's the third one. Bill and Ted 3, Face the Music, that's what it is. Bill and Ted Face the Music. We'll talk about that trailer. We've all watched it. I believe Techtic has seen the movies, so we'll get into that. But first, the headliner topic of the day, in which I feel like Nerdbomber is going to wax poetic. That's right, Neopets, the phenomenon, I would call it a phenomenon, of the late 90s, early 2000s. They're back, and granted, they haven't really been gone necessarily, but the news here is that they have introduced a mobile app, which is in beta testing. So I have a lot of questions, but I feel like I need to turn the floor over to Nerdbomber. I have no Neopets experience. I did not know it still existed until today, until we talking about this on the podcast. So, Nerdbomber, wax away. What's your experience with Neopets been like? What has it given you?
So I was a huge Neopets fan. If I go back to the days of the early 2000s, late 90s, I played Neopets religiously, every single day for at least an hour or so. And man, for at least a couple years. And it was a cultural phenomenon at the time, because I remember Limited 2, if you guys remember that clothing store.
I do.
They actually had a Neopets branded line of clothing and visors. So I had a Neopets t-shirt. I had a Neopets visor. I didn't go much beyond that, but I did have the Neopets trading card game and Neopets plushies in real life.
There was a trading card game? I mean, you're saying all these things, and aren't they just souped up Tamagotchis? Or am I misunderstanding what the concept is?
So basically the concept of this site was that you had basically a pet that you took care of, and you adopted and created the pet when you first logged onto the site. And then past that, it was kind of almost like a little global economy. And I know Techtic was also really big into Neopets, so he can chime in at any time. But basically, you spent your time on the website. You could play Flash games, and you would get Neo points, which was the currency of the website, for every game that you played. There was a whole economy where you could then spend those Neo points. You could set up a Neo shop where you could
even gamble.
Yeah, you could gamble. They had poker and stuff like that, and different various gambling games that you could play.
And they put Neo on the front of everything.
Oh, yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
And there were message boards and a very vibrant community of people that you could interact with. One of the things that I actually loved best about it was that there were different guilds that you could join. And that was basically a group of people, much like in other video games and stuff, of like-minded people. And you would all work together. Especially there were a lot of site-wide events. So they would have a story and different games or things that you had to do around the website, because there were different tasks. There were maps on the website, and you could explore different worlds and different villages. And you would basically follow the event storyline and get points for your guild and your team and stuff. And basically it was a very community driven website. And they did for a kid. So I guess I'll admit this. I didn't want to have the locks on, because if you signed up as a child account, you couldn't freely or as freely communicate on the message boards and stuff. So I made an adult account, and it was a very vibrant community. You could talk to people, but they did have a really good and kid-friendly section of the website where if you were signed up as under 18, you couldn't do a lot of things. Like you couldn't just openly communicate and message people on the website. But I mean, I think I even learned some of the HTML skills that I have through Neopets, because I think you can make on your shop page, you could like customize it. And I think you had your Neo home that you could customize with HTML. So basically,
it's mentioned in this article is that the quote is that Neopets has been slowly fading over the past several years, but has maintained a cult following, especially among young women who credit the site with helping them learn to code, which I did not know.
Yeah, I mean, you could do pretty much everything. I think on the website, or on your shop site rather, you could have, like, I don't know if you guys remember like GeoCities websites, you basically could change the background. It was also a little bit like MySpace. You could put like background music, put sparkle glitter text and stuff like that. And it was just like very basic early coding, but it was something that other people were doing, so you just wanted to learn it. And honestly, I love the site, but one of the major things is that as everybody moved onto phone driven, both mobile browsing and gaming, they didn't really pivot with the rest of the world. They stayed very like web browser necessary, like you had to be at a computer. And so even now, what they're rolling out isn't even so much of an app. It's just a mobile friendly version of their website, so that when you go to their website on your phone, it kind of pulls up an app looking thing, but it's not fully an app. And so today I did do a little bit of digging. I created a new account. And one of the things that Techtic and I were talking about earlier today that was kind of disappointing was that if your account was inactive for a while, which both of ours were, because I don't know about you, Techtic, but I haven't played in like 10 years. How about you?
I have not, and I'm incredibly disappointed because I had super rare pets.
Yeah, so like one of the other cool things was that there were quote unquote like limited edition pets that you could adopt. So if you were around for a specific event, you could get, like, there was one called Grundo, and it was a little alien guy, and you could
Grundo.
And
Sorry.
I had one, and you could only get it during this very exclusive timed event, and then after that you just couldn't get them anymore unless you traded or adopted one. And like, so
it's like
all that
rare
stuff
Pokemon,
is gone.
Basically.
Kind of,
It's like
yeah.
rare Pokemon.
And like,
mean,
you could even battle it. You're right. Like you could battle your Neopets against each other. There was an option if you wanted to do that. There was a way for you to do that.
So it's worth noting, and now I'm saying this as an outsider to the entire Neopets culture because I know nothing about it. They apparently ventured into mobile in the early 2000s.
Did they?
Sorry, not in the early 2000s. It revived characters from the early 2000s, but it was met with mixed reviews. It was their Legends and Letters game, which is apparently a combination of Neopets lore, puzzle game mechanic, and battles. It launched last year and was met with mixed reviews. So this is not their first. So it sounds like there is some kind of app involved, or there was some kind of app, and it was mixed reviews. No one uses it, something like that. It's a little bit late for them to be, turning their site into a mobile friendly site. I would feel like the site was sold to Viacom in 2005. Viacom being like one of the biggest entertainment conglomerates that exists. So I just find that very interesting. They were later sold to Jumpstart, which is, so some people might recognize that as, they make like toys for kids, basically.
First grade, right?
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting to see it back. I'm curious if, I don't know, I'm skeptical that it's enough to create like, and granted, Pokemon Go, like lightning struck in 6 different places for that to be what it was, but like, it's not going to be that at all. I acknowledge that Neopets was a big deal, and I missed the boat on that. One of the many things that I missed the boat on. But it's not even an app. It's just our site now works on your phone. It's like, that should have been the case a long time ago.
Why I left Neopets was because I got to an age where the action, quote unquote, on that site just couldn't keep me captivated. I actually did not leave for a mobile thing per se, but I left for another game called Maple Story, which was a little bit more kind of involved. So even if they just have a mobile site, I don't think that it has, for me, what it takes to bring it back. And trust me, I was very into Neopets at the time.
Yeah, we were actually talking, and if we probably did run into each other in Neopet circles when we were both kids, because we were both extremely into Neopets and extremely into doing a lot of the same things on the site. I will say I did, like literally right as we were prepping for the show today, I made a new account and I was navigating the website, and I agree with you. I don't think making the website mobile friendly is nearly enough, because so much of the website, even on the supposedly supported PC version, it does not work. Like the games don't work. They just don't load. And you click on links and they take you to nothing.
They might have a lot of traffic right now because of this news. That's I'll throw them a bone and say maybe that's the case. I mean,
I went onto the Neo boards, which is like the message boards for the website, and apparently that's been like its state for a while. So
gotcha. Well, it's interesting because I think well, the move is way too late. It makes sense, but I think you need to go fully app with it, and like here's why. I think their intended audience, in as much as you, Nerdbomber, I'm sure are their intended audience, their intended audience is probably younger children who you're not going to see a 4-year-old sitting on a laptop, right? It's not going to happen. You're not going to see them going on Google and typing in Neopets. You're going to see their mom who's tired just being like, here, take my phone and play that game you like, or taking an iPad and playing a game you like, and just opening up an app that says Neopets and doing it that way. So like it is interesting. I think the gap, and I never really thought about this, but I think the gap between just having a mobile site and having an app is very wide in that sense, in that the accessibility for especially very young children who might respond to the educational nature of the games and the cartoonishness of like the pets themselves, like they need to get on that. And to get them on that, you need something like an app, I think.
I mean, I don't understand what happened to it, because it really did feel like one of those brands that if they would have kept up with the times, it probably would have continued to succeed just based on nostalgia alone. Because I know like if Neopets was fully fleshed out by the time that I have a kid, I would totally be into giving them that experience, because Neopets it was. Right. It was very educational, cutesy, and it felt like a safe environment to play around in. And right now, like it just feels like it's nostalgic, because when I open the website, it looks exactly like it did when I left it in the early 2000s.
Right. So like Windows 98, that kind of situation. And that's not great. I mean, it's interesting because I would think if they're, I'm reading an article about this on The Verge, like this is clearly news. They're clearly publicizing this as like, this is our big thing. Come check it out. Sounds like they might not have been ready. But, they do say it's in beta, and there could be brighter days for Neopets ahead. It is interesting, when you think about parents passing on things to their kids, and like this could certainly be one of them, right? Like for me, I don't know what the heck I'd pass on to my kids. But like,
you don't have like a single franchise from when you were a child that you'd be like, yo, you should definitely get into this. Like, what would you want to share?
Oh boy, this is a good question that I would.
Mine's Pokemon, without a doubt.
I'm sure, yeah. Pokemon is one of the obvious ones that I missed the boat. Man.
Digimon, I changed my answer. A lot more raw.
For me, it would probably be Star Wars, but it doesn't seem like it even counts because that's still going on. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. In terms of like franchises that I most responded to in my childhood, Star Wars was one of them. Metroid Prime doesn't seem big enough to justify that kind of response and like showing it to a kid. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that. Maybe I'll tweet about that because that's an interesting question. But
like I know off the top of my head, like I have some niche ones, like Neopets would be one. Obviously, like Pokemon and Digimon would be one that I would want to share. But also, strangely, the book series Warrior Cats, and I shared that with your little sister because I was.
You shared that with my little sister, yeah. Which you told me get her these Warrior books. I did. She's read a bunch of them. She read the dog ones too, which I don't remember what the dog ones are called. They might still be called Warriors, but it's dogs instead of cats. The original one is cats, right?
Yeah, it was all cats. I don't think I read the dog ones. The cat books, there were so many of them. I tapped out after because there were several arcs of those books. And I think I got into the 5th arc or whatever. And then I tapped out because there were so many.
So this is a fun thing. I'm now trying to investigate Neopets and what I missed out on. Because like we were talking about, it does seem like it was kind of a cultural phenomenon. Okay, so it was launched in 1999. In 2005 is when it was sold to Viacom. How much do you think they bought Neopets Incorporated for? This is $2005, bear in mind.
I'm going to say curious. Probably like 10 million, maybe.
No, I'm going to say a cool 500,000.
Guys, it was $160 million. Like this was
really?
At one point, this was a giant. This was, because again, this was also kind of before a lot of social media happened. So like this was a place that a lot of people went on the internet.
It was like kids' social media. It really was. It felt like that. I made legitimate friends who I'll never talk to because we had Neopets names and didn't actually exchange real information with each other. But there were people that I talked to like every day on that website.
Now, what I asked you guys before we started recording this was, what do you call a Neopet enthusiast? Like, I'm not seeing anything on the Wikipedia that answers this question. But like, what do you call them a Neopetter? I don't know. You call the Neopets, obviously. But what do you call the Neopet trainers and handlers? You know?
I mean, I think everyone was considered a Neopian if you were like a citizen of what is it? Neotopia?
Neotopia, yeah.
You can also, this is social media. Like, it's reading this. Users may request other users to be Neo friends or block other users. It was social media. It was early. Like, when was MySpace? This was right around MySpace time, right?
Oh, yeah. Like I said, a lot of the HTML modification that you could do to your shops and stuff on Neopets was the same kind of stuff you were doing on MySpace. So basically, I graduated off of my Neopets HTML tinkering to tinkering with my MySpace page.
Yeah, Neopets started before MySpace. MySpace started in 2003 and was sold in 2005. So like very, very similar timelines. And you could make the argument that Neopets got there first, which is like never a sentence I thought I would say. That's very interesting.
The main difference is you couldn't put yellow card on your page. That was it.
You could find
Lights
a MIDI
and sound,
of any song that you wanted. If you found a MIDI version, you could embed it.
I know that it's crazy to think MySpace still exists, guys. Like, it's still out there.
I want to know who actively uses MySpace. Like, if you are an active MySpace user, I really want to know, because I feel like it's largely forgotten, but it does have a decent population. Like, people are still using it.
In May 2016, the data for almost 360 million MySpace accounts was offered on a dark market website. That means the takeaway is not the hack. The takeaway is, in May 2016, there were 360 million MySpace accounts. Like, what? Unless they're like old accounts from like, unless it's like, Nerdbomber, what was your screen name back in the day? Like, whatever your AOL email was, like some sort of song lyric with like 6 X's and different cases and like some 4 numbers.
It was something like
that
super Japanesey that I thought I was super cool.
They got your junk mail probably in 2016. They're probably like, oh, the email that hasn't been touched since 1999. It's got some juicy deets on there. But yeah, who still uses MySpace? That's an interesting question, kind of an offshoot from the original topic. But Neopets has a mobile website. So if you were a Neopets fan, or if you still are a Neopets fan, no judgment, you should go check it out.
If you're on Neopets, I can't promise how long I'll be playing it, but my new username is OW Nerdbomber. So come find me, I guess. Let's be Neo friends.
Wow, keep me updated on if you get any hits on that, because that'll be interesting. So yeah, we're gonna move on now to some big news that dropped today. Actually, was essentially Bungie, I think, had a presser or something, and they talked a lot about Destiny 2. Now, Destiny 2 has been out for a long time, I believe. Also, Destiny launched in 2014. Destiny 2 launched in 2017. I do have the dates in front of me. So, Destiny 2 has been around. It feels like for longer than that, but it's only been around for 2.5 years or something like that. They've since had a number of expansions, two major expansions coming in the fall. They tend to release expansions in the fall, and they announced today their next one coming in September, called Beyond Light, is coming this fall. They also teased The Witch Queen in 2021 and Lightfall in 2022, and perhaps most importantly, they did not mention any plans for Destiny 3, which some people were expecting given the development cycle of Destiny 1. So they're putting all their chips in the Destiny 2 basket, which is interesting because Destiny 2 has gotten blowback for a variety of things since it came out, pretty much. But another cool thing that they're doing is Destiny 2 will be made available on PS5 and Xbox Series X for free to people who already own the game. And I don't know what that will look like. But they're doing things like that. They're really putting a lot of effort, throwing their shoulder into crossplay between PlayStation and Xbox, which is also super cool. Something I know that we would benefit from, because I think you guys have Destiny for the Xbox and I have it for the PlayStation. So there's a lot of meat there. So did you guys ever play Destiny 2? Either of you?
We have Destiny 2. We actually got it before it went free to play, I believe, and now we just never touched it. We finished Destiny 1, and I think we went all the way through the Taken King expansion, but that was it. That was when we stopped. I
played Taken King. I think I played all the Destiny 1 expansions, and I did get Destiny 2. Destiny, the thing about Destiny, I love the IP. I think the universe is so cool. I think the overall vibe is amazing. I had a lot of fun for a while, especially with Destiny 1. I had a lot of fun playing it. But I have to say, I cannot imagine grinding on one game for this long. But I don't know. Sorry, Techtic, I think you were going to say something, so you can go ahead. I need to gather more of my thoughts on this. But
I always thought the combat was super great. I thought the IP was really, really awesome. But I need a game, if I'm going to grind like that has a story that just totally engulfs me. And it's more of a raid-based game. So I could never just completely immerse myself into that.
Well, that was definitely a big misstep with Destiny 1, and I think that was highly criticized when the game came out, is that it had all of this lore, but you had to log in either through your phone or a computer to read about it. Yeah. And that just was, I think, a huge mistake. I mean, obviously people stayed with the game because, like Techtic said, the gameplay was great. And the feedback loop of basically shoot and loot and do everything all over again is very addicting and fun. But for people like us who are very story-driven, having to go elsewhere for your story seemed like a bad move. And I don't know, because we never played Destiny 2. Is Destiny 2 like that, or did they improve on that?
My memory of the story in Destiny 2 is very limited. I want to say the story was shorter. It was a very similar experience story-wise. I think the meat of that game, I think you're absolutely right. I think the meat of that game is shoot and loot, which can be fun. It can also get repetitive, but it's not story-driven at all. It's just go to a planet, shoot a bunch of stuff, unlock something, and repeat. And the multiplayer was amazing. Super, super tight gameplay. Was a really big fan of that. Having fire teams with friends was really, really fun. But I just don't know, like I said, I can't. The expansions that I played, like I played Taken King, and I think there was one other one for Destiny 1 that I did play that I can't remember the name of. Iron. Rise of Iron was what it was. And the expansions didn't add enough. Like, the expansions added stories that were short, but the stories had the same kind of lackluster quality of the main story. And again, I can't imagine playing a game for a year, waiting for another expansion. And like, they do seasonal updates, but like, it's so piecemeal. And I'm also kind of a completionist. So like, the very idea of a game like Destiny and Destiny 2 is that you can't be a completionist. You're never done. You're always going. That stresses me out. With all that said, the things that they're doing at Bungie, again, with focus on making it easier for the console transition for their existing players, is a huge step, because I know a lot of people had a hard time, a lot of their fans had a hard time moving from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2 because they lost everything, and they didn't want to do that. People who had spent a lot of time grinding in Destiny 1, building up arsenals and the way their character looked and the way their character was, they didn't want to lose that. And to me, that's understandable. I'll be curious to see if they handle that better with Destiny 3, but, in the interim with the console transition, it sounds like they're trying to handle it better, not saying you have to start all over. And, making crossplay more possible, which is something that I think we're seeing more and more of, but we need to see even more of. So it's very cool.
I think it's interesting. Like, I know a lot of people are expecting an announcement for Destiny 3 at some point, but I can't remember this correctly, and I might be speaking totally out of turn, but I think one of the reasons why Bungie split from Activision was because Activision was expecting that like yearly or every couple year annual release of a new title, whereas Bungie just wanted to basically have a single game and update it indefinitely. So I wonder if we'll ever actually get a Destiny 3 in true form, or if it will just like build off of Destiny 2 and you'd be able to take everything with you, much like what they're doing with basically just porting over to the new console.
So I can't speak to the Activision stuff. What I can say is that in all of their press today, they were asked specifically about Destiny 3, and they said that there are no plans in place for it, which people, again, were expecting that to be the case, and it's not. There is other news that also broke today that suggests that they're focused on, and I'm quoting an IGN headline here, new IP that is quote-unquote comedic and will feature quote-unquote whimsical characters, according to job listings that Bungie has posted. So potentially they're going in a different direction. Destiny is not a very lighthearted thing. You have Nathan Fillion doing wisecracks, but that's about all you get in terms of anything comedic or anything whimsical. So it sounds like they could be going in a different direction. When I think whimsical, I do not think sci-fi necessarily, so it would also be a huge jumping off point for them in that sense.
Yeah, Elven for me comes to mind.
Yeah, I do think more. Well, Skyrim's not very whimsical either, but closer to Skyrim than to Halo is what I envision, for better or for worse. So that adds an interesting element to this. What are Bungie's plans? They're an independent publisher now. They don't have to deal with Activision. They can do whatever they want, and they've kind of shown that with again the crossplay and the free to play stuff. They're making their own mark independently, which is cool. It's going to be very interesting to see where they go from here with all of this. I mean, knowing what you know about Destiny 2, and sounds like you've had it for a while. Do you guys have any intent of playing it? I don't know if I have any intent of revisiting it. I can't imagine an expansion providing anything for me in terms of excitement.
We fully intend on playing it when the weather gets crummy again, but with a lot of other good games coming out, it seems to keep getting kicked to the back burner. But it's nothing shy of not wanting to.
Right. Well, I mean, there's no story draw. It's not. You play it knowing exactly what it's going to be, which is, like you said, a shoot and loot where there's a lot of great customization, there's a lot of great upgrading, and it's very fun. And it's grinding in the most fun possible way. At least that's my experience with it.
See, what I'd always, and this is like a super retrospective comment, but when I initially saw and played the beta for Destiny, the original thing, when I saw the trailers and the sneak previews, what I kind of envisioned was that it would be something kind of like Borderlands, but with more like MMO-y type interactions with other players, but with that kind of story. And that is not what we got. And so like Techtic said, like, we're going to play it eventually, but there's so many other compelling games that constantly come out all the time. And knowing that there's really no end in sight to this game, I think it would be very difficult to immerse myself and not kind of feel tugged away by other releases that are coming out.
Well, maybe one of those releases will be Bungie's new whimsical IP. But yeah, to me, Destiny, and I haven't played Borderlands. I've played Borderlands 1 very briefly. To me, they're synonymous. They're shoot and loot grinders, but it sounds like that's not really the case. I think I probably play them both very similarly. But Borderlands does that even have a multiplayer mode the way Destiny does?
Borderlands, you basically group up with several other players, but you don't, like, there's no single hub area where you can go and see a bunch of other people at once. And there's really...
Gotcha.
I mean, I think you can do raids and, like, backfill your party, but again, there's, like, a party cap. You can't have, like, a huge raid of people.
Right.
They might have changed that in Borderlands 3, but we never did any... I think we never actually finished Borderlands 3. Ooh.
Destiny, I mean, yeah, there was a time with Destiny, I don't want to sell it short. Like, if you're thinking about trying it, I don't want to tell you not to, because especially with Destiny 1, when I was first going, it was addicting, and it was really satisfying. Shoot and loot. The loot has to be satisfying, and it was. Like it and the multiplayer was. I hadn't done a lot of online multiplayer gaming in a while when I turned to Destiny. It was a great way to come back to that. So I don't want to sell it short. I think Destiny's a great franchise, but for me, I can't imagine what it would take for them to get me kind of back on the train in that regard. So that's the Bungie update. We want to hear from you on our social medias, whether you're a Destiny player, whether you're excited about the new expansions, what you think this mystery IP that they're reaching out with job listings for could be. So please, by all means, at Online Warriors 1, at OW Illeagle 86, at OW Techtic, at OW Nerdbomber. We are all available and ready to tweet out at you and have conversations with you. So let's do that. We're going to take a short break now. But I do want to shout out our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Ben Checkness, who joined us a couple weeks ago for a show. That was one of the many benefits he receives as a Patreon producer. He supports us at the night level on our Patreon, which is the highest of the 3 levels, and that gets him the occasional guest spot, which he just did, weekly shout out in the form of this current shout out. He gets input into the game segment. He gets access to the monthly secret segment and vlog as well. So if you want to be like Ben, the night level is the place for you. We also have the Squire level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and the Page level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. So for more of the details on that, you can head over to patreon.com/Online Warriors Podcast for more of the details. Thanks again to Ben, and we will be right back.
Hi, my name is Chris.
And my name is Erin.
And here are a few things you may need to know, or maybe you just forgot.
Every week on Go Check Yourself, we rewatch and analyze an episode of NBC's cult classic Chuck. As 2 lifelong fans of the series, we discuss how it intersects with pop culture and why this fan favorite is so beloved even over a decade after it aired.
Every episode of Go Chuck Yourself is equally as dramatic, irreverent, and dare we say awesome as Chuck itself without all the explosions and Yvonne Strahovski.
Chuck us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't freak out.
Okay, we're back to talk about Bill and Ted Face the Music. Now, the first trailer for this came out today, the day that we're recording this. This is a highly anticipated movie, of course, a sequel to both Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Bill and Ted. What's the second one called, Techtic? I don't remember.
Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, and then the first
Bogus
one
Journey.
is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
So the basic premise here, I haven't seen any of them. I know Nerdbomber hasn't seen any of them. So Techtic, check my work here. There are these two stoner rocker like Wayne's World guys who enter a phone booth and they time travel. Is that the basic gist of it?
Basically,
what the trailer
but
suggests.
the gist changes between the movies
have
as
to
far
go
as
back
the
and,
purpose of time traveling.
Well, because they go back and they go back to certain points in history, right? Like that's the thing.
So in the first movie, they had to travel through time so that they can meet historical figures and pass their history report. The second one, which is what seems to be related more to this third installment, is they had to stop someone who sent replicas of them into their past to kill them. They died, met the Grim Reaper, duped the Grim Reaper, then traveled to take out those replicas, then traveled to the future to play the most
surprisingly convoluted. I never expected this in depth.
It is. It's absolutely convoluted and it's amazing. Then they played this excellent song, and they were supposed to like harmonize the world in the second one, but then what it's showing in the third one is that they basically were just average Joes that just liked to jam and didn't fulfill their destiny. So it seems like they're kind of circling back to right those wrongs and fulfill their excellent adventure.
So we find them basically playing like wedding gigs and stuff, and yeah, the presumption is that they're supposed to at some point write the greatest song ever, and they can't figure out how to write it. So I don't know which one is Bill and which one is Ted. One of them has the idea to travel into the future, meet their future selves, and ask their future selves how to write this song, or like just say what the song is, and then come back and play it, and everything will be happy. Because apparently there are some people, some future people who are like, you were supposed to write the greatest song and you haven't yet. I don't know. As an outsider, it's pretty confusing. My main takeaway is Keanu Reeves, man, looks great. Looks exactly the same.
Actually, I was just going to say something about his looks, and I don't think I'm alone with this thought, according to the internet. And that is, Keanu Reeves is the only person I have ever seen ever that looks somehow older when he shaves. So you should keep that beard, Keanu, because you look great with it.
So I think you're right about that. There's, and I should be clear. There is dad energy. There's definite dad energy. Not a bad thing. But like in terms of like how his face itself looks, still super young. And how old is this guy? Like 60? How old is Keanu Reeves? He's not that old. Let me Google it. But
no, there's no way he's 60.
There's that theory. Have you guys read that theory online that he's immortal?
Yeah.
He's 55. I was not that far off. He's 55. I'll tell you right now, that guy don't look 55 in this trailer or with a beard. But yeah, I don't know. I never watched these movies. I know that the whole shtick is they say certain catchphrases and they do the guitar riff thing a lot, which I guess is a big thing. Yeah. They say excellent a lot. When did the first movie come out? Because I legitimately, again, I have no idea.
It had to be in the 90s. I remember it was almost always on TV when I was younger. And weirdly enough, I watched it every time. That's why I can recite everything that happens, no matter how convoluted it may be. But if it came out before that, I'd be surprised. Yeah.
So the interesting thing about this too is that you have to imagine being okay. I looked in. So Ted is Keanu Reeves. I've just learned. Imagine being the guy that plays Bill. What has he been in? I don't recognize the guy. Like they were both in this movie, and Keanu rocketed to stardom, either due to this or something else, I guess.
Oh, The Matrix is definitely what rocketed him, though, to stardom. He was just floating in other movies after this.
This guy, Alex Winter, I mean, what a huge get for him. When they came to him and were like, we want to make Bill and Ted 3, I'm sure he was like, yeah, please. Like
That's
I've
not
been
what he
waiting.
said. That is not what
I've
he
been
said.
waiting for
He
years.
said, and I quote,
Excellent.
"Excellent."
Yeah. It's so, yeah, I don't know. I would have to watch the first two in order to have any interest in going to see this one. The trailer seemed good, but like I have no connection to any of it.
Or at least
It
watch the
seems-
second one if you're going to watch one, because that ties in with a lot of. They showed Death in the trailer as well, and they're all buds with him, so you got to be able to understand that back history.
The whole premise and the whole thing and just the whole vibe of it is like is to me is like a decom. That when I hear the premise of like they have to do their history paper and stuff, I'm like, okay, this is a Disney Channel original movie that somehow snuck its way into Hollywood and got on the big screen. Although I guess Ferris Bueller's Day Off, kind of a similar situation.
Bueller.
The 80s were weird, man. The 80s were like, it was like John Hughes and like everyone was in high school and like, they don't make movies like that anymore, I would argue. Superbad. I guess Superbad was kind of like that, but you get my point. Bill and Ted Face the Music is coming, well, I have to Google it to find out when the release date is. It's this year. I know that. This year, 2020. August 21st, 2020 is when this is coming out. So hopefully by then you'll be able to go to this theater yourself and see it if you're so inclined. Although it could be one of these fun in-home release situations that we've been seeing lately. So be on the lookout for that. If you're a Bill and Ted fan, explain to me on Twitter why I just upset you, because I'm sure I just did. But for now, we're going to move into the What Are You Up To Wednesday segment and find out what we've all been up to in these past couple of weeks. I'm going to go first because I have a diatribe today. I have a mega beef with is it Ubisoft or Ubisoft? I never know.
I feel like I say it differently every time I say it, so either
Yeah.
one works.
Huge video game fan, playing video games for many, many years, played many Ubisoft games. Still don't know how to say the company's name. But this is the company that made Starlink Battle for Atlas, which I've been playing and very much enjoying on the Nintendo Switch. In spite of what I'm about to say, I think I would recommend it. So I don't have, this is the game that comes with like the toys and stuff. I didn't have any of those. I was just playing the game, which is just a kind of, you're in a ship the whole time. It's kind of RPG-ish. It's like an RPG with ships, basically. Super fun. Very, very low key, which is kind of what I was looking for. I had put in, according to my save file, which I don't know how accurate it is, given what I'm about to tell you, it says I put in 120 hours, which for me in a video game is unheard of, at least double the next highest number I've ever put into a video game. I'm fairly confident in that.
So when did you get the game?
A while ago. I didn't start playing it until after I beat Luigi's Mansion, but that was probably coming up on a month ago now.
So that means over the last month, say you played every day for like 30 days, you played like 4 hours a day. Does that sound about right?
No, that can't. See, when you put it like that, that can't be right. The file has to be, the timestamp on the file has to be wrong. But that's not going to change what I'm about to say, because I put in many, many solid hours into the game. I was doing a fast travel to a different planet, and the game crashed, and I was like, no big deal, I'll reboot it. And I think at that point I don't have a way of knowing. I was at least halfway through the campaign. I had leveled up my ship a lot. The save file got corrupted, and I lost like essentially everything. So I'm done playing that game. I'm upset about it, obviously. I had fun while I was playing it. I guess now that you say that, there's no way I put 120 hours in. It has to be something to do with the fact that I didn't play anything else on the Switch that whole time and just kept putting the Switch to sleep, which might have been why the game save file got corrupted. I have no idea. I pierced the defense, or there was just some general data corruption that lost almost all my data. So on deck, I have What Remains of Edith Finch, which is a much lighter, like 8-hour story-driven experience, which I'm excited for because I've heard great things about it. And then Last of Us 2 we're like a week and a half away from that now. Couldn't be more excited. Other than that, not a whole lot going on here. I'm reading it's Stephen King time of year, guys. Summer is always when I read a lot of Stephen King. I'm hitting one of his older ones up called Firestarter, which you may have heard of. There was also a movie starring Drew Barrymore way back in the 80s. It is fantastic. It's got to be one of my favorite Stephen Kings I've read so far. I'm a little more than halfway through it. There's no danger of losing any save data on that because it's a book, which is the great thing.
Have you read all of Stephen King's books at this point?
No, not even close. He has, I think, 60 published. So last year for my birthday, my amazing girlfriend got me every single Stephen King book that at the time had been published, which I think she told me it was like 60 books or something. I've probably read 12. I haven't even, I'm not even close to halfway is what I can say. I'm maybe a quarter of the way. I might have read 15, but it's good because I have a backlog of a lot of great books from a prolific author who people love that I can just pull off the shelf and read at any time. And in this case, that was Firestarter. I probably will also read Salem's Lot over the summer, which I'm looking forward to. So that is the update on me. Techtic, give us the deets.
So whatever's been happening in my life, it has been very superhero-centric this past week. And so the first thing that I want to touch on is that Nerdbomber and I started watching the show The Boys, which is a very graphic kind of, if we lived in a world where superheroes were real people who have flaws, what would that look like? And we're one episode in, and by gosh, is it intense. So far, very good, and I recommend it. And then the other thing is, it's inspired me and a number of other things in my life to start designing a supersuit. And many of you probably think I'm insane, but I'm at the early stages. So if you can think of, don't say flying, because flying is hard. If you can think of things that I should put on a supersuit that are realistic, drop it in the social media. That are realistic, drop it in the social media.
I might drop some things in the social media. They may or may not be realistic. What's the quote from Star Wars? We will be watching a career with great interest. I'm that character right now. I will be watching this with great interest as a bystander because I'm not as handy as you are. But it sounds very interesting. And hopefully if I get into any trouble, you will come and save me with your superhero suit and powers and general awesomeness. So props to you on that. Have you thought of any good names? Because that's also critically important. I don't know if are you ready to unveil that yet. Might depend on the powers. Okay. Keeping it simple. I have to give you credit for that. People will associate a superhero with the Online Warriors brand, which I am obviously super on board with. So yeah, A+. Power to you, my friend. Keep us up to speed. I've heard a lot of things about The Boys. I've heard that it's pretty intense, like graphic violence and like just gritty. But you're enjoying it so far, you said?
One episode in, yeah, so far.
Well, again, keep me updated, I guess. Nerdbomber, hit us up.
So we also went on a bit of a Kumail Nanjiani kick. So we watched 2 of his movies. One is The Lovebirds. That was, I think it debuted on Netflix, last month or something like that. And so we did watch that. It was a very cute, like, kind of, it reminded me of something like Game Night, or what was that movie with Steve Carell and Tina Fey?
Date Night.
Date Night. So it reminded me of like Date Night or Game Night, one of those type of movies.
They had a night.
Yeah, it's like a very kind of cutesy rom-com where the couple is kind of on the outs, and then a night of adventure and dire straits brings them back together. And then we also watched Stuber, which honestly, like, okay, it wasn't a great movie, but it was entertaining, and we had been put off from watching Stuber for quite a while because it had terrible reviews. And like, I don't know if it deserved 20% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It was far better than what the critics clamored it on.
Yeah, like you had to go into that movie for knowing what it was. You know what I mean? Like, it was just going to be a stupid buddy entertainment movie. Like, I don't know. We weren't expecting much, and we were subtly entertained. Other than that, the only major thing I've got going on is that I got a better office chair. So it is a gaming/office chair. It's like the racer back style, and it comes with this great lumbar support that has like a massage feature if you plug it into a USB port. And I got it because I don't know when I'll be going back to my regular office. And at the moment, or like probably like a week ago, I was using a folding chair that had a $10 lumbar support that I had used in my car, and it was held in place with an Ethernet cable and a clamp, like a hardware clamp. So that was not really cutting it. My back was hurting, my butt was hurting. So I finally just sprung for a GT racing chair, and so far, so good. For $100, honestly, can't beat it.
Good to hear. Did you guys ever watch The Big Sick? Because you've mentioned 2 Kumail Nanjiani movies. You didn't mention my favorite one.
I did watch The Big Sick. I don't know if Techtic has seen it. I watched that one when I was by myself at Christmas.
I have not seen it.
Love The Big Sick. Big fan of that movie. You're right, too, that going into having the right expectations for movies is very important. And I feel like we've kind of said goodbye to that recently, where it's just like every movie has to be this amazing thing. And like, yeah, we don't have time to get into it, but I have plenty of counterexamples for from the 90s that were like, you kind of knew going in, this wasn't going to be a showstopper and you didn't care. And now we always seem to care very deeply, at least critics do. So,
well, I think that's kind of like a bad thing. And I appreciate Netflix for that, because we've stopped expecting those like B movies. You know, everything has to be an A blockbuster. And some of the better movies, some of the ones that I look back fondly on from the 2000s, the early 2000s, were those like B movies, the stupid rom-coms or just the stupid buddy movies. And they don't really make those anymore because they won't sell like gangbusters at the movie theater. But I think Netflix is really starting to like fill that void and pick up some of these movies that kind of fill that niche, which I appreciate a lot because I still love a stupid rom-com.
Do you guys remember, just sidebar, Fantasy Movie League? Do you remember that? We've been off that wagon for a while. And granted, I was never very good at it, but it was good. It was fun. I hope we get to do that again sometime soon.
Hopefully soon.
Right now is when we would be talking about that, right before the game show segment, but we can't talk about it because it's still on hiatus. So instead, I'll turn it over to Techtic, who will lead us through today's game segment, which is about swimming pools, if I'm told correctly.
Yeah, so let's jump right in.
Splash!
Time to get your feet wet. I am on fire.
You are ready to be a father. That much I can confirm for you.
All right, so we're gonna jump right in. This time, no pun intended. So the trivia is going to be Price is Right style. I have 5 questions and a emergency pull lever in case of a tie question.
You're not going to need it.
The first question is, in the United States, how many residential pools exist?
Who goes first?
I don't care.
Okay. Oh, I'll be a sport. I'll go first. How many residential pools exist in the United States? This is a lot. This is more than you think it's going to be. I'm going to say 24 million.
Okay, I have no basis for these numbers. I'm thinking about my street. And on my street, I would say probably 25% of people have a pool.
Okay. Well, in that case, I undercounted. Well, did I?
But I'm trying to think about the population of the United States, and I feel like at one point I knew this number, and I no longer do. But I want to say, is it something like 300,000 people live in the United States?
300
or 300 million.
I want to say it's around 330 million, but the thing is, you have to think about that.
A lot of people in apartments. In the city.
Families.
And families, yeah. So it's like, it's kind of, I initially thought of like, let's try and base it on population, but that only gets you so far. So I just kind of said 24 million.
So I'm going to step through this. So let's say the average family has 3 people in it. So now let's cut that down. So now we have 111 million. And now let's say we've got a bunch of people in cities. So now maybe you've probably only got like 50 million outside of cities. I don't know. That seems like another shot. I don't know what's happening with these numbers. So 25% of 50 million. Let me do that quick mental math here, if I can do that.
It's like between 12 and 13 million.
So yeah, 12.5 million. I will go with that.
I loved the quick draw assumptions. I don't care if the answer is right. I don't know who's going to be right, but Techtic, tell us.
So Nerdbomber was incredibly close.
Really? Oh.
But she busted. It was 10.4 million.
Oh my God. Wow, so I was way off. Okay, so we both busted, no points. Boy, I
feel like I should get a bonus point just for like the mental gymnastics I had to go through to get there.
If she had used the actual average family size instead of the minimum requirement to create a family, then...
Is the average family size 4?
Yeah,
what is the average?
It's 4.5, I thought it was.
Darn it, so close.
Okay. So, and since you can't have a half a child, it's 4.
I don't know about that. Watch me.
Don't tell me what I can't do. Okay, what's the next question?
So, how big is the largest pool in the world? And we're looking for this answer in gallons.
Okay. I don't know. I'm trying to think.
I'm literally trying to think of how big a gallon is right now. That's my starting point. So.
I know we have a fairly large pool like a circle pool, and
Unless it happens to be the biggest in the world. I don't know how far this is going to get you.
well,
But go ahead.
I'm just trying to get like my mental math in order. So I know that's like a 20,000 gallon pool, and it's only like 5 feet deep. So probably I'm thinking like an Olympic sized pool, maybe from like, I don't know if high school pools are the same size as an Olympic sized pool. It's probably like 2.5 times that. So I'm going to say 50,000 gallons. And then someone out there probably made like a ginormous one because they're a millionaire and they can. So I'm going to go with a 100,000 gallon pool.
Okay, I'm fairly confident it's larger than that. Again, loved the reasoning through it though. I'm just going to double you and say 200,000 because I'm pretty sure it's larger than both of those numbers.
So Illeagle gets it. It is located in San Alfonso del Mar in Chile, and it is 66 million gallons.
Is it like the size of a state? So like, what the heck?
It literally looks like a beach.
Chile is just one big pool. I had a feeling we might have been orders of magnitude off, but I wanted to play it safe.
They're taking Infinity Pool to a new level.
Okay, so here's an important one. What percentage of people pee in the pool?
Oh my god. I love this question. One of the most interesting questions we've had in these quizzes. It's 6%. If it's anything higher than that, I'm going to be upset. 6%.
Okay, I'm going to say it's much higher than that. I'm going to say at least 50%. Come on, you've all thought about doing it.
50?
You were a kid at one point who didn't want to get out of the pool, and you peed in the pool. Just admit it.
So here's the thing. In order to collect this, people have to willingly admit to peeing in the pool.
That is an element of this. Don't help her, Techtic. Are you saying 50?
I'm going with 50.
There's no way.
So
there's no way.
It is higher by a good amount than what Illeagle said, but Nerdbomber, you did bust. It's 1 in 5, so we're looking at 20% of people pee in the pool, admittedly, which means it's realistically probably even higher than that.
Cross my heart, hope to die. I have never even thought about doing it. Even when I was a kid, I was like, no. I've never
Gross,
thought about
it's
doing
too
it.
confined. It's not like it's like the ocean or something. It's a pool.
I'll tell you right now, Nerdbomber has peed in many pools. That's the vibe I'm getting from her entire demeanor with this question.
So when I was a kid, it was a process.
So like it stopped at some point, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And it only happened until... Okay, so when I was a kid, before you really know how to swim, right? When you're like 4 or 5 years old or whatever, and you're still learning, right?
We're talking about potty training or swimming?
No, swimming. And you've got the
just go in
floaties
there
on.
and pee. Yeah,
Right?
sure.
You got
the wingies.
You've got the floaties on, and it's such an ordeal to get in and out of the pool. And most of the time, like at least when I was extremely little and just learning how to do everything, I didn't have the motor skills to be able to get myself out of the pool with the floaties on. I couldn't grab the ladder and like make my butt go down because the floaties and stuff were keeping me upright. So instead of calling for my parent to get me out of the pool, it seemed like a lot of work. And, you were fresh off potty training, so you just went. And you know what? It happened. And then as soon as I got old enough to be able to hoist myself out of the pool, I just went and ran in the bushes. And I went because I wasn't allowed to go in the house unless I dried off. So I just like ran in the bushes, did my business, came back.
So I was going to ask you, how old do you think you were the last time you peed in the pool? And I need you to be honest here. This is a safe space.
I mean, pretty little. Basically, once I was able to
13,
get myself
14.
out of the pool, once I was able to actually like use the ladder myself.
So a fun fact about this statistic is when I first looked it up, it just said 100% of people pee in the pool. So I don't believe any of that story. So moving on to the next question.
I'm saying every child has peed in the pool.
So
Maybe you just don't even remember it.
I'm up 2-0 right now, and there's only 2 questions left. So
you got to
run it.
Nerdbomber.
You got to run it now.
Okay. So what is the oldest known pool in existence?
Okay, this is Nerdbomber first.
It doesn't need to be functioning now. It's just our records based on archaeologists and stuff. What is the oldest known record of a pool, rather?
How does like the BC and AD stuff work with busting rules? BC gets bigger the older you go, right? So
if you guess 0 AD, you busted on a BC.
Okay.
That confused me even more. Can you explain what you mean?
So 100 BC is earlier than 0 AD, right? Which means you
Yeah.
busted if the answer is 100 BC.
Okay, so it's just you have to just go early enough. Is okay. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, I'm going to go with 800 BC.
Oh, it's older than that.
Is it though? Because I don't want to help you,
100%.
but like they called them baths. They didn't call them pools.
1600 BC. I'm just going to double your answer again. I might still be too late though.
Okay, so Illeagle takes it.
Wow.
Darn
It
it.
was 3000 BC. Oh wait,
So
no,
didn't I
you both
bust?
busted.
Yeah, we
you
both busted.
Yeah.
BC is
I was
hard.
on the
BC
I was on
is
the
so
right
hard.
track. I was on the right track, but I didn't go late. I should have just gone way earlier if I was thinking. But I was on the right track. Okay, so now I'm trying to take a victory lap. And we can make this last question worth 2 if you want to make it interesting.
I can give it 2 parts.
I'm a good sport.
It's a 2-parter question.
Okay. Well, then let's do this thing.
The highest shallow dive was done from what height?
What's a shallow dive?
A dive into a shallow body of water.
So like the shallow end. I think
No, you can't dive into You'll die if you dive into the shallow end.
that's a fair point.
At what height was the tallest suicide attempt attempted is what that question would be.
I was trying to math out in my head like, oh, what is the highest that you could go before you break
You
your-
guys are going to put your foot in your mouth when you get to the second part of this question. So what was the height?
Shallow dive just means into a not an ocean is what I'm taking that to mean. So I'm gonna say, what's the height? The tallest height, 200 feet. That seems high. 200 feet.
I'm going to say 50 feet.
You could have played
higher
it
than that.
safe and just said 1 foot to avoid busting on, I don't know, every single question. So the answer is 33 feet, 10 inches.
Oh shoot.
And the second part is this jump. How deep was the shallow body of water that he jumped into?
Wait a second. How high are the diving boards in like Olympic diving? Those are 30 feet, aren't they?
But those are not into a shallow dive. They're
So
a
this is-
dive.
This
It
is gonna
is into
be-
the shallow end of a pool.
4 feet. Okay.
Yeah,
4
that's
feet.
why I said y'all are going to put your foot in your mouth in a little bit.
Hey, you guys made fun of me. That's what I was going for. I thought it was going to be like a 4 foot deep pool. So
Why? Who's diving into shallow? That doesn't even make. That's so dangerous.
they
33 feet is
explicitly
way too
put
high.
it on all shallow pools. They say do not dive
Yeah.
all over the rail.
Okay. So
Boy, that's the reason.
did
I
you
got
just
so
give your
hot last
answer?
time.
I said 4
She,
feet.
she said 4 feet. I haven't said anything yet. I'm just saying I said 200 feet with the last question because I misunderstood the question. I thought it was what's the highest dive ever, like into a pool, into the deep end of a pool, which I said 200. I mean, I'm pretty sure Nerdbomber's right with 4. I have to go less. I'm gonna say 2 feet. I'm gonna say he somehow jumped 33 feet
Into a bathtub.
into 2 feet of water, and he survived. Techtic,
So-
tell me I'm right.
So Illeagle was far closer,
What? Come on.
but he busted.
No,
Okay, wait a second.
did he like
don't-
jump into a puddle? Like what?
It
was a
was
suicide attempt.
it was a shallow dive into 12 inches of water.
How does that even work?
It's called a face plant, basically.
That's
Yeah,
what?
it's a what's it called? Belly flop. He belly flopped into 12 inches of water and didn't die. Is that the implication?
Yes.
What a weird question. Oh my god.
Did he have internal organ damage? Like you basically flop on the floor of the puddle.
He's in the Guinness World Book of Records, so I think one of the requirements is you have to live.
It probably like the water like cushioned his fall, and then when he hit the actual ground, he was moving a lot slower. It
Next
still had
time
to
I-
hurt a lot though.
next time
my
I
God.
jump-
I'm
in a
wondering if it
puddle,
was a
I'll
kiddie
let you
pool
know.
placed on top of pillows. So like he was technically into the water from that height, but there wasn't straight concrete.
Yeah, but here's the thing: if I jumped 33 feet into a 12 inches of water even with there were pillows underneath it, I would die. There's no way I wouldn't die. There has to be some kind of technique to avoid dying in that scenario. It must be belly flopping. I don't know, but that is insane. I'll take the win. We busted a lot, but I'll take the win. So I'll be given the quiz next week. Thank you to Techtic for that very illuminating quiz about pools. It's been another great episode. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with all of you. Thank you so much for listening. If you are so inclined, hit us up on the social medias. We mentioned our handles already, at Online Warriors 1, at OWLegal86, at OW Techtic, at OW Nerdbomber. You can also head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. We always love hearing from people over there. And in general, just, thanks again. Hopefully we'll see you around here, same time, same place next week. See you all then.
Have a good one.